Hey everyone, my name is Burton. I'm with Propstream.com and thank you for watching this video. So today I'm going to be explaining to you what we've really designed our product for. So if you're a real estate investor, you're doing wholesaling, fix and flipping, or you just need real estate data in general, I believe our application can help you out. Now, a little bit about us. We've been collecting records nationwide for the last 15 years. This is county records, tax information, mortgage information, title information. Recently, we also partnered up with the MLS boards across the nation to give you MLS listings, whether you're running comps in a non-disclosure area or you're trying to find leads, either like an expired listing or maybe a listing that's been on a market for a very long time. We can help you there. So with that said, again, your playground is all of the United States. So normally when you log in, it's going to capture your IP address and zoom in on your market. But again, you can search anywhere in the United States. So for example, I can go to Chicago, Illinois here. And when I search Chicago, Illinois, here's what's going to end up happening. It's going to zoom into Chicago for me. It's going to show me all the records that we've collected for you. And over here, we have about 1.7 million records that you can go through manually. And we list about 10 per page. Below the map, we show you the statistics as well. Now, most of you guys that are investing in Chicago may already know this, but again, you might be a virtual wholesaler or you might be a virtual investor flipping in a different market. So this information could be important to you. You'll be able to see last 30 days of price changes, increase or decrease in rental changes, how the price per square footage has increased, days on market, and a lot of information that I believe you're going to need to know before investing in that given market. Now, what we also do is we categorize every record for you. So of the 1.7 million records, you have here 23,000 records that are on the MLS. So if we click on this box here, the right-hand side will just show our MLS. Same with pre-foreclosures, auctions, foreclosures, cash buyers or properties that were recorded as a cash sale at the time of the sale. Liens are involuntary, like federal tax liens, state property taxes, HOA, utility mechanical liens. Vacant are properties that are not answering their mail. We get this from the Postal Service. Just be careful. This can sometimes include recently sold properties, so you definitely want to make sure you're filtering for the years of ownership or last sale date. And then high equity is something that we've created. This is a category of properties that have $100,000 in equity or 50% or more in equity. And we do have a few others located in the filter here at the top. Those would be free and clear, properties that are owned outright with no mortgages, bankruptcies, and we also have divorce records as well for you. So when you search a given area, you'll be given all of our results here at the top. So again, searching Chicago, you'll be able to see all of our results right away. Now, what really has made us very powerful and has separated us from most data aggregators is just the amount of details that you have access to and how we tie them all together for you. So when I click on an MLS property, you'll see all the MLS listings here on the right-hand side. I can click on a given property here, and now I'm able to see all of the records tied in together. So I'm able to see property images by clicking on the property here at the top left. I can see property characteristics. I can see bird's eye view. So I can see if this property was recently rehabbed. And if so, that's a good sign. I definitely want to make sure I know that owner of that property. So it could be a rehabber, and here's their address. It's a different address. So this could be something, but just bought a property and is rehabbed and flipped it. So you have all that information here, county records. You have MLS details. So this is the agent's information, including the agent's contact information down below. You can run comps, which I think is very important. So we give you access to running your own comps. So here you'll have county records and the filters down below to adjust those county records. So you can either change the default 1 year to a much larger time frame or lower the time frame. So instead of a whole year, you can, let's say, go back just 7 months. You can apply your property characteristics to narrow down your comps. And eventually you'll get your comps here on the right-hand side. And I'll let you know what the average ARV is in that given market. You do have neighboring records as well. So sometimes you might be in a gated community, or you're in a cul-de-sac, or you're dealing with a property very, very, very old. So you'll be given neighboring records as well. And last but not least, you have agents information as well, MLS listings around that property. So you can again filter by date range, characteristics, and lastly, the status. So you can just see all the sold listings around that property in a 1 mile radius, or you can decrease it, perhaps a half-mile radius instead. So you have comps that you can run. You can take full control over that. You can print out your records, tax information, mortgage information, transaction history, documents and reports, the ability to print properties, the ability to run an analysis on that property, and then run a rehab calculator on that property. So most of you guys are already familiar with this if you've already tampered with our application. We do give you a lot of details, but the cool thing about our application, again, what has really separated us from everybody else is the ability to manipulate data. And what I mean by that is running into our filter and pretty much custom creating your own search. And so let me kind of show you what I mean by showing you this very unique graph I've created here. All right, and so the way that we've always looked at it is you have your low motivated, sellers, and you have your high motivated sellers. Here in the high motivated sellers, you have your pre-foreclosures, auctions, and foreclosures, depending on the state that you're in, if it's a redemption state. But most investors love this category because of the big discounts, faster closing. However, it's very competitive, right? Now, prior to the pre-foreclosures, auctions, and foreclosures, you have this section, what I call the uh-oh section. Right? This is where people file bankruptcy, there's a divorce, or there's a lien against the property, or the homeowner's not answering their mail, or perhaps they've been renting out the property for a very, very, very long time. So these are usually indicators that cause this particular situation here, right? And then you have your good, these are your cash buyers, high equity, or someone that just recently bought the property, right? There's no discounts here usually. If you do get a contract here, it's probably going to be very slow close, and obviously there's no competition here. So our system allows you to actually filter any of these categories. So if we wanted to, let's say, look for a cash buyer, I can go into our system in Chicago and say, okay, I'm looking for a non-owner occupied cash buyer. So that's usually an investor, someone that doesn't buy the or live in the property after they bought it. And then I can go to property characteristics and start refining my cash buyer. So I'm looking for one that bought a single family property, maybe one that bought a property built between 1980 and 2000. I'm looking for a buyer that doesn't buy more than 3 bedrooms or 2 bathrooms. I can play with MLS status. So I'm looking for maybe a cash buyer who's either listed their property as active right now, or it's pending or sold. So it's either on market now or off market. Foreclosure status. So I'm looking for a cash buyer who probably is not in pre-foreclosure. I'm not looking for a distress cash buyer. Owner info. So this is important. Here I can specify the corporate, if the buyer is a corporate or an individual, and or both, actually. If you want to do both, you can. And then last sell date, when did they buy the property? So most of us will probably want to look maybe for the buyers since the beginning of the year. And we're pretty much done here. So as you can see here, we refined a given category, and this was the least distressed category, which was right over here, right? So we've just simply focused on this area. We made sure that none of our cash buyers had any liens or pre-foreclosures attached to them. So these are highly motivated buyers, low motivated in terms of selling, but these would be my 4 buyers here. And again, with all the details that we provide, you can then click on that property and we show you the cash sell tab here. So I get to see the cash sell, see the amount of the buyer, how much they spent and when they bought that property, the name of the buyer, and now I have the contact information of that buyer. I also have MLS details, so I can see that they tried to list it back in 2017 and it failed. This is probably why Donna got a really good deal on it. She probably found a distressed homeowner. So now we can get a hold of Donna anytime in the future we have a contract within this area. And that's going to be the same with any of these 4. So you click on that, you're going to see the cash sell tab, how much the buyer spent, when they bought it, and the buyer's name and address down below. So that's, again, focusing on one area of the low or high motivated section. But what if you're an investor looking for a lead and you need one with very high motivation, in this case, this given area here? What you can do in our system is similar. Instead of filtering a cash buyer, you would just filter for a pre-foreclosure or an auction or a foreclosure. So for this example, let's do pre-foreclosures. So I can, after getting my results in Chicago, go to filter, and this time create a whole different predicament. Owner occupied, pre-foreclosure, so that way if we knock on the door, we know the owner's there. Since I have my buyers already lined up, I'm looking for a single family property built in 1980 to 2000. No more than 3 bedrooms, no more than 2 bathrooms. I can then, after applying my property characteristics, go to the MLS status and say, hey, you know what? I want it to be active on the market or recently failed on the market or just not on market in general. So I'll shut that down there. And now I can refine the pre-foreclosure. So I can say, you know what? I need the ones that will be auctioned starting October 1st of this year or this month and later. So here are my 2. Or you can go back if you need the ones that were auctioned in the last 90 days, because sometimes there's an extension. So you do have to worry about that. And it's easy to know if there's an extension. Sometimes we don't record it, which is perfectly fine. But if you want to get information on an extension, once you get your results, you can click on the property, go to the pre-foreclosure details, see the auction date, but you can also call the trustee. These are the individuals actually holding the auction. So this property, the auction date isn't until November 14th, which gives us a lot of time, but there could be an extension for some external reason that we don't know. And here's the trustee's information if you need to get a hold of them. So now we have our 6 properties. So these are our 6 properties that are in this category right over here. So as you can see, Propstream allows you to take control of the level of motivation, whether you're looking for low motivation because you're not looking for leads, you're looking for a buyer, or maybe you're looking for leads, but you're looking for very motivated leads. So you're just focusing on the high motivated categories like the pre-foreclosures, auction, foreclosures. But as you guys can see, you know, this category does have a lot of competition. And as you guys are very aware, you know, it's not going to happen all the time, but that Cinderella story of the first time you call, you get a deal, it's not going to really pan out too often here in the real estate investing world. So what I like to explain to people is that our system allows you to suppress data. And what I mean by that is clearly when people are in pre-foreclosure, something has happened prior to that for them to go into this category right over here. And our system lets you focus on just this category. So the example I'm going to give you is looking for a person that's in the uh-oh stage that hasn't gotten a pre-foreclosure yet. So what we're going to do here is we're going to search for Chicago again. But this time we're going to focus on some liens. So I'm going to be looking for a owner-occupied lien. Since we have our buyers lined up, we're going to do the same thing, single family, 1980 to 2000. Again, just an example. You guys can use any variable you like. We can then, after applying property characteristics, go to MLS status and say, hey, you know what? We're looking for something that's not on market. Or you can get creative, right? If it's not listed, that's a great thing. Perhaps it was listed, but it failed. So these are homeowners that have one less option that they can choose, right? I have 4 leads here. So most of us, again, you can get creative. You can even say active. And if your market usually has properties on contract for, let's say, 6 months, or more, you can perhaps do active for 150 days or more. So you can get really creative with that, or you can just say, you know what, it's not on market, period. And this is where the suppression happens, right? So if we know that pre-foreclosures are very competitive, what we can do is then go to the foreclosure status and say, we're looking for a property with the lien that's not in pre-foreclosure yet. And then we can add more layers like looking for whether it's corporate or individually owned, how long it's been owned. So let's say we're looking for property owners that have lived in their house for 5 years or more. Here's where the motivation driver starts right here. So as you can see, I do have 83 results right now, but some of these have very low liens. So they can probably pay that off and they're not as motivated as some of them with a high lien amount. So here's where I get to control the motivation. I can say I want a lien that starts at 10,000 minimum, but doesn't have more than 50,000. Now, depending on your market, you can go much higher than that. I've seen people hunt down properties with $100,000 liens or more. So you know your market, you'll know the amount that that market will not be able to cover. And at that point, it'll be a much better lead. And lastly, we can go to the equity and mortgage information, say we need at least 50% in equity or more, and now we can hit apply. And so here are my 12 results here that I've found that are not in that high motivated section. So the idea here is that rather than competing with everybody else in this category here, I found individuals that have a lien. And yes, I'm going to get a hold of them here. And again, they're not highly motivated yet. But so they're most likely going to say no here the first time I make contact. So I'll wait about a week and a half or 2 weeks, depending on your marketing campaign schedule. Make contact again. They'll probably say no again. That's fine. Another week goes by. Hope they solve the situation. So by the time I call them the third time, they're letting me know that the problem has been solved. But on the third time, if problem hasn't been solved, again, we're getting closer and closer to pre-foreclosure. So maybe at this time, the relationship between us and the homeowner has gotten better. They know us by name. They know that we're being genuine. So now more information is starting to unfold, getting closer and closer to contract being signed. They might say no one last time, and then we make contact a month or two later, and boom. This is probably when stress for the homeowner has increased much more than when we last spoke to them. So this is probably when contract is going to get signed, or we get more information on whether this is a really motivated seller or if they're just going to be stubborn and not want to deal with us, right? And in most cases, this is where most contracts are signed when we do that follow-up. As you guys know, in most industries, especially when you're dealing with sales, most of your sales is going to be done by follow-up, right? Not every time you're going to get that first phone call, first contract signed. It's going to happen. It's not going to happen all the time, right? It's a numbers game, right? So you can either focus in this area, make 1,000 calls, and hope that one person, answers that call, and on that first phone call, they sign that deal with you, right? Because if you do follow up a week later, they might be closer to the auction date now. If you follow a week after that, the auction's probably a few days later, and how fast can you close that deal at that point, right? So our system lets you suppress areas, in this case, the pre-foreclosures, auction foreclosure, so you guys can get a hold of people here, start building that rapport, and hopefully get the contract here before it even goes into pre-foreclosure where all the other competitors are at. So our system, and what you guys just saw me do, was do just that. I was looking for an owner-occupied lien that's off market, not in pre-foreclosure, with $10,000 to $50,000 recorded against it. And it has 50% or more in equity because we need to flip the property, right? So now I can hit apply, click on those properties, analyze the details. And this is a good one. Here's a mortgage balance of 123, liens about 15,000. So they owe about 130, 140, let's say 150 on that property. We can then run comps on that property. I can go, let's say, just until the last 6 months, apply my details, 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. Once I get my results here, here's a cash buyer. I'm going to knock that person off. Property range is about $222,000. I can then go to the MLS and double check. So show me what the MLS is showing in the last 90 days or 60 days that are 3 bedroom, 2 bathroom, and show me the ones that have sold. So here they are, listing price around 125, 200. So let me cap out. Let's do 3 bedrooms only, 332s. So yeah, 199, 166. Here's one much further south by a park. So by golf club. So we probably need to deselect that one. So here we're about the $160,000, $200,000 range. So this could still be a lucrative deal depending on the rehab, right? So that is what our system was ultimately designed for you guys to do. Come up with leads that allow you to stay away from competition. Our system also lets you come up with leads that you're not going to find in any other platform or any recording office for that matter. And that would be, for example, tired landlords. I hear this quite often. People always say, hey, I like to look for tired landlords. Sometimes they're just fed up with dealing with tenants, or sometimes the damage that their tenants have performed on their property is too much. So they're just looking to let go of their property. So how do you find a tired landlord? Well, our system has been collecting records for 15 years. I think our filtering can help you with that. The one example I've seen is to simply just play with the years of ownership and the fact that it's a non-owner occupied property. So what I'm going to do is search Chicago again. I'm going to go into the filter and I'm looking for a non-owner occupied property, most likely property that's being rented, right? If it's non-owner occupied, it means the homeowner is not living in that property. I'm looking for a high equity property. Property characteristics, again, single family, built between 1980 and 2000. I want it off market, not in pre-foreclosure. I want it individually owned. And here's where the tired landlord part comes into play. I'm going to actually say that I'd like the owner to have owned this property for about 10 years or more. And then once I hit apply, my results will populate here on the right-hand side. And now you guys have your results here on the right-hand side. So these are what I would believe are tired landlords. I can click on that property. See that it's non-owner occupied. Owner is Michael Vitek, lives in a whole different address, and Michael's actually owned this property. Last sell date was in 2005. So Michael's actually owned this property 14 years. Again, I don't know if Michael's willing to sell, but this is definitely a great conversation to have with Michael. Could be a potential tired landlord. He may also have several other properties he's willing to let go. So with that said, guys, again, my name is Burton. I hope you guys enjoyed this application. We also have some other features that could help you out as well after you find these really cool leads. Those features are skip tracing. So you'll be able to take your tired landlords or your highly motivated categories or the categories or your cash buyers, skip trace them for contact information. You can even go to the campaign section to send postcards, ringless voicemails, and emails. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys have any questions, make sure to reach out. My name is Burton. Have a great day.